In the heart of Mexico lies Puente Grande Prison, the most fortified prison in the country. This is no ordinary prison. It's a fortress designed to contain the most dangerous criminals in Mexican history, including the notorious drug lord, El Chapo. But as history would prove, no walls, no matter how thick, could hold this man for long. El Chapo, the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, was captured in 1993 after years of evading the law. He was sent to Puente Grande, where most would expect a life of isolation and hardship. But El Chapo had other plans. Inside this heavily guarded prison, he continued to live like a king. Through massive bribes, he turned guards into his personal servants, smuggling in everything from alcohol to women. He even ran his drug empire from behind bars, inventing new ways to smuggle drugs, including through underground tunnels. This was not just a prison, it was his headquarters. For years, El Chapo felt untouchable, secure in his fortified prison. But everything changed in 2001 when the Mexican Supreme Court proposed a new law that would allow his extradition to the United States. This was a threat like no other. The U.S. prisons were far more secure, and there, El Chapo would be isolated from his empire. The stakes had never been higher. For the first time, El Chapo feared for his future, and the wheels of his escape plan began to turn. El Chapo knew his escape had to be flawless, involving only those he trusted most. He bribed his ally, Damaso Lopez, the deputy chief of security, to reduce the number of guards in his section on the night of the escape. The plan was daring and simple. El Chapo would hide in a laundry cart, pushed by a lowly prison worker, Chito, who had been paid handsomely to ensure his freedom. On January 19, 2001, as Chito pushed the cart through the prison, a near disaster struck. The cart, heavy with El Chapo inside, began to roll backward, threatening to expose their entire plan. But Chito quickly caught it, saving the escape from failure. Moments later, they reached the prison parking lot where a car was waiting. El Chapo climbed into the trunk, and within minutes, he was out of the prison, free to command his empire once again. For the next 14 years, El Chapo evaded capture, all while expanding the reach of the Sinaloa cartel. His empire grew more powerful than ever, fueled by billions in drug money flowing into the United States. El Chapo became a living legend, a man who had outwitted the world's most powerful governments. But even legends make mistakes. In 2014, the tide began to turn. Mexican and American authorities, frustrated by years of failure, adopted new tactics. They focused on tracking the people closest to El Chapo, his family, his associates. Through sophisticated technology, they hacked into his encrypted communication network and finally pinpointed his location in a safe house in Sinaloa. On February 17, 2014, special forces stormed the house. They encountered fortified doors and small armored windows, but they pressed on, knowing that their target was just beyond. Yet when they finally broke through, the house was empty. El Chapo had vanished once more. He had escaped through a secret tunnel, expertly designed and hidden beneath the bathtub. His gang's tunnel-building skills, honed over years of drug smuggling, had saved him yet again. Back in prison, El Chapo's fear of extradition drove him to plan another escape. This time, the stakes were even higher. Held in the Altiplano maximum security prison, El Chapo was under constant surveillance, with guards carefully chosen to resist bribery. But he had learned from his past mistakes and devised a plan so bold it seemed impossible. His gang purchased a piece of land 1.5 kilometers from the prison, and from there, they began to dig. The tunnel was a masterpiece of engineering, complete with ventilation, lighting, and even a railway to transport the extracted soil. But how could they know exactly where to dig? El Chapo had a solution. He smuggled a GPS device into the prison, hidden in a watch. With this, his men could pinpoint the exact location of his cell's shower, a small, unmonitored space where the tunnel would surface. On July 11, 2015, El Chapo made his move. Surveillance cameras captured him pacing his cell, nervously waiting. Finally, he stepped into the shower, where a hole had been expertly opened beneath the tiles. He climbed down into the tunnel, drove along the underground railway, and emerged a free man once more. By the time the guards realized he was gone, it was too late. El Chapo was already far from the prison, on his way to yet another safe house. El Chapo's freedom was short-lived. In January 2016, after months of intense surveillance, Mexican and American forces closed in on him again. They had tracked him to a house in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. On January 8, 2016, they launched a raid. The resulting gunfight was brutal, but El Chapo managed to escape once more, slipping away through yet another secret tunnel. But his luck had run out. Just 20 kilometers from the house, federal police stopped a car and found El Chapo inside. This time, he couldn't bribe his way out. He was arrested and taken back to Altiplano. Realizing that Mexico could no longer contain El Chapo, the authorities expedited his extradition to the United States. In January 2017, El Chapo was taken to New York, where he would stand trial. Stripped of his power, surrounded by enemies, El Chapo faced the inevitable. In 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison, plus 30 years. Today, he is confined to the ADX Florence Supermax prison in Colorado, the most secure prison in the United States. The legend of El Chapo, the man who could escape from any prison, has come to a tragic end. Far from his empire, isolated and powerless, he can only reflect on the heights he once reached and the inevitable fall that followed. And as he sits in his cell, 23 hours a day, perhaps he dreams of escape, but this time, there's no tunnel waiting for him.